I'm 10 feet tall. Really, I'm 5. 10 feet tall. Woo! Perception is reality, you know? I just keep telling myself every second, like, I don't have COVID. I don't have COVID. I don't fucking have COVID. And I actually think it works because this is the best I've felt all day. Oh my God, so funny. All right, so, no, oh, okay, I can't breathe. So maybe I do have a little bit of COVID. Last week I mentioned that you should have a pump up song, and that is last week I paid Hardwell, and that is 10 feet tall, Afrojack, and that's actually my number one pump me up song. It makes me feel 10 feet tall, and as a 5 foot tall person, sometimes you just need those extra few inches. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much. First of all, I want to start off with just some massive gratitude to everyone in You by Design with Louise Barnett private group. We have exponentially grown this month. Like, it's crazy. So thank you for joining. Thank you for participating. If you're not part of the group, please join the group. We would love to welcome you with open arms. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Today is a weekly live where I will be taking suggestions on topics and facilitating Q&As, like if time allows, kind of thing. So that's what we're going to jump into today. Before we dive in, I just have a couple of just super quick housekeeping notes. Number one was the group. So join the group if you're not in the group. We would love to have you. Eventually, these live sessions are going to move into that private group exclusively. So for the month of January, we'll keep them open to everybody, but ultimately we're going to want you in the free group for that. Secondly, The Only Way is Up Academy. Doors are closed, you guys. It's crazy. I'm so excited. We have them closed temporarily. So right now we're just on a wait list for the second round of enrollments. So go ahead. You can find it anywhere on my social, on my link tree, anywhere to submit a wait list application for that. And by submitting the application, you're actually entering to win a whole free semester at the Academy. So as well as a one-on-one strategy session with me. So that's well worth you submitting that application. And I cannot wait for round 2 of the Academy to get enrolling and rolling. So forgive me, as you may have heard me mention, I do have COVID. I think I'm on the tail end of it, but I kind of need to just take it easy, which for me is tough. So anywho, we are going to dive now into the topic. This topic was recommended by a member of our group, and the topic is FOMO. And I've actually added JOMO onto it. For those of you who do not know what FOMO is or are unfamiliar with that acronym, it is the fear of missing out. And then, of course, on the flip side, we have JOMO, which is up and coming, I would say, in the past couple of years. It is the joy of missing out. So as I like to preface a lot of these conversations, I have a story of sobriety and mental health. That does not mean that these topics are exclusive to addiction or alcohol or any of those things. These concepts can really be applied to any part of your life that you're transitioning with, where you feel like you're giving something up and it's affecting or impacting kind of your daily life, and you have concerns about that. So just want to preface that to you now. And then also, before we kind of really dive into it, I just want you to know that FOMO is natural. It is totally normal. it is okay to feel that way, and it's temporary. But it's only temporary if you're willing to do the work. So it's totally fine to feel those feelings, and it is temporary. And especially in the world of recovery, and as I can relate to alcohol recovery, it is temporary if you're willing to put in the work. So I also want to just put out there, I like to keep it real with you guys. I think you know that about me by now. I don't really sugarcoat much. So if you're thinking about making a lifestyle change, as it relates to alcohol or any other lifestyle change, you're not going to lose all your friends. That is for certain. But, and here's the truth part and the hard part, is that you will most likely lose the people in your life that are there because of this habit or because of alcohol or whatever it is. So if your entire social life right now revolves around drinking and you're trying to stop drinking, then yes, do not be fooled. Your life is going to radically change. And I just want to be super clear and real and honest about that, because I don't think we can expect anything less. If your life is completely revolved around alcohol and every person in your life revolves around some kind of activity that involves alcohol, you would be a fool to think that your life is not going to change. So that's like me and Louise, but I want to be very real about that. But that's really like the only bad news. So the reality ultimately is that when we give up drinking, or if we give up something in our lives, our entire perspective changes. And that's usually a good thing. And our way of thinking changes. And also that is a good thing. And as you grow into the newer version of you over time, you will start to discover other people, other resources, other influencers, other activities that are more aligned with you. And you'll discover that you have friends and family where the relationship was not dependent on alcohol. Maybe you thought it was, but it actually wasn't. And those relationships still can thrive. And then you'll learn the hard truth, which is the minority truth, but it is the hard truth that there are some people that are just in your lives because of alcohol. And most likely those people will dissolve. If we have time later, I do have some tips about kind of how to have those conversations, but we'll just see how we do with timing. And then I should say, you know, one of the, for me, the best discoveries, and I think I wrote about this this week when I shared a really, really personal story about my motherhood style and certain choices that I made when Annabelle was younger. But the last line of that said, you know, one of my biggest struggles when I was very actively using was how alone I felt. And I always felt like I was alone. And I would chase anything, men, alcohol, drugs sometimes, I mean, whatever it was, not to feel alone. And the reality was that through my journey, once I like literally did the work and discovered who I was and actually loved who I am, I will actually never be alone again, ever in my entire life, because I love me and I love being with me. So that's another thing to think about with FOMO. So real quick, I want to share a quote. It's a lengthy quote, but it's a quote from a woman that a lot of us I know view as inspiration to us, Brene Brown. She's no stranger to this space. And she has a really, really good quote about FOMO. So what I did was I read this and then I basically extracted from it 4 different tips that we can be using to help us kind of get rid of this FOMO in our lives. So here's the quote. It's from Rising Strong, her book, and it's Brene Brown. The fear of missing out is what happens when scarcity slams into shame. FOMO lures us out of our integrity with whispers about what we could or should be doing. FOMO's favorite weapon is comparison. It kills gratitude and replaces it with not enough. We answer FOMO's call by saying yes when we mean no. We abandon our path and our boundaries and those precious adventures that hold meaning for us so we can prove that we weren't missing out at all. But we are. We're missing out on our own lives every time that we aren't missing out. Every time we say yes because we're afraid of missing out, we say no to something else. That something may be a big dream or a short nap, but we need both. Courage to stay our course and gratitude for our path will keep us grounded and guide us home. So thank you, Brene Brown, for that. And from that, I've pulled out 4 different points. And sorry, I see a couple notes coming in and I'm managing this on my own right now. So I'm just going to say a quick highs. Hi, Anne-Marie, thank you for being here. Hi, Vicki, thank you for being here. Yes, I can see you. I've got a couple of windows up right now, so a few minutes late here, but thank you guys all for being in the live today. And I'll keep my eye for questions that come up too. Okay, and we'll get to those at the end. So the first point that I wanted to kind of, or tip, if you will, to address FOMO is to first, let's just acknowledge that the first letter, F, is fear. And I can say with full certainty that fear is a feeling. So fear is anticipation. Fear is your inner critic. And most importantly, fear is your own perception, which means it is your own reality. But it also means that we can change our perception to change the reality. So it's not permanent. So instead of thinking about what you may be missing out on, the fear of missing out, what if you thought about what you won't be missing out on and write it down? If you're listening to this live, like grab a pen, not if you're driving, please, but like grab a pen, write it down. Like, what will you not be missing out on? So I don't know, drinking, let's use drinking again as an example, right? Like hangovers, I'm not going to be missing that. I'm not going to be missing my sleepless nights. I'm not going to be missing drama. I'm not going to be missing unnecessary spending, whether that be on the alcohol itself or like, y'all, my Amazon bill, like side note, this is not scripted here. Like my Amazon bill has cut in half since I stopped drinking. Like, what? Seriously. Shame and guilt. I will not be experiencing shame and guilt. Okay, so start to write down all of the things rather than thinking about what you will be missing out on or what you think you will be missing out on. Write down what you won't be missing out on. Okay. The second one is an exercise that we do in the Academy quite a bit because it's really powerful. And it's the 7 whys exercise. So the second tip or the second tool that we can use to help with FOMO is to ask ourselves why. But by that, I don't just mean like a single why and a single answer. So it's something called the 7 whys. It's actually a quite uncomfortable exercise. It forces your brain to think in ways it just doesn't usually think. It gets deeper than you normally think. So, you know, take any example of an experience where you are feeling that like FOMO, fear of missing out. So whether it's kind of a girls' wine tasting or just a Saturday night out with friends or whatever that is, bar hopping, cruise, all-inclusive vacation, whatever that is to you. And let me also mention this exercise. I guess I'm giving the example today, assuming that you are not going to be partaking in any part of that experience. So for example, in my sobriety, I do feel comfortable going to, you know, a night out or an all-inclusive resort or something like that. This exercise in my mind is more like if you're really choosing not to partake at all in that experience. So, how the 7 whys works, and I'll use the example that I use quite a bit. I use this in the academy, is my example is to lose 10 pounds. So it's not a FOMO example, but it'll give you kind of the framework for how to conduct the exercise. So if I want to lose 10 pounds, okay, that's the goal. That's what I want to do. Well, why? Okay. Well, I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to look good in a bikini. Okay, well, why? Why do you want to look good in a bikini? Well, I want to look good in a bikini because when I look good in a bikini, I have a feeling of self-confidence. Okay, great. Should we just stop there? Because that sounds like we've gotten to the root of it. No, we've gotten like 3 layers deep. So we're going to keep going. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. And you have to force yourself really to think about this stuff. Again, remember what I said at the very beginning, you have to do the work. This is the work. The next step. Okay, well, why do I want to feel confident? All right, well, when I feel confident, I am a lot happier. Okay, we're definitely really getting somewhere. Well, why is it important to be happy though? Why do you want to be happy? Well, I want to be happy because when I'm happy, I'm actually a better mother. I'm a better wife. Okay, I think we're almost there. So why do you want to be a good mom and a good wife? Well, when I'm a good mother and when I'm a good wife, I'm actually operating as the best version of myself. Bam. So I just took losing 10 pounds and turned it into the real reason, the real root is that I want to be the best version of myself. So this works the same way for an activity that, you know, you just don't understand why it's so important to you to do, or why you're just really feeling that resentment or that FOMO. Do that exercise, take the time to do it, and you will be enlightened with what you can come up with. I love that. I just want to get well for me, my beautiful children and grandchildren. I love that, Anne Marie. And I want to lose 6 kilos. I need like a conversion on that. I'm not the best with my conversions. I should be because I'm married to a British man, but okay. So number 3 is to reframe your idea of fun. And, you know, this one I think will speak true to many of us. So many of us, whatever habit it is that we are working on right now, we've been doing this for a lifetime, or at least an adult lifetime. So for many of us, we're not talking about a decade of behavior. We're talking about, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of doing whatever it is that we are now in our lives trying to make a change. So it is completely understandable and warranted and valid and okay that you would think to yourself that certain activities equal fun, or that if you don't do certain activities, you won't have any fun. So I just want to, again, kind of give yourself a little bit of grace here, because our brains, while we do have the ability to rewire them and retrain them, it takes time. So if you've been doing some of this stuff, like some of these habits that you're trying to change for decades on end, hopefully it's not going to take us another few decades to rewire our brain because we're actively putting in the work. But it's understandable. It's really understandable that you would feel this way. So the next thing to do is to, like I said, reframe your idea of fun, which means, what is it that you do want to do? What is it that you've always wanted to try? Is there, are those things that like you've always said, oh, if I had more time, I would, improve my baking skills or cooking skills, or I would really become an avid hiker, or I would love to be more cultured and go listen to music or theater or whatever it is. How many things are on that list that, if you're really honest with yourself, you didn't do because you were choosing activities that involve drinking or alcohol and not wanting to miss out? So just think about some of those things. So this is kind of similar to step number 1. So instead of thinking about what we'll be missing, what we won't be missing, we're going to start a list or just some ideas in our mind about what we will be gaining. So instead of thinking about what we're going to be missing out on in terms of the activity of what we think we have FOMO about, remember, that's just our perception. Let's think about what we'll actually be gaining. So I'm going to be gaining a good night's sleep. I'm going to be gaining quality time with my children. And by the way, like, I'm just going to interject here because I think, especially for myself personally, I'm not somebody that is very like outwardly social. I don't go to parties. I'm actually like very happy being at home, and I always have been, even as a drinker. So, I think the FOMO can even be related to, I have fear of missing out on that 5 o'clock glass of wine. Right? So it doesn't have to be something as big as the night out on the town with the girls. It can be something scaled to your lifestyle and what it is that you have fear of missing out on. So for me, I would have that fear of missing out on that 5 o'clock glass of wine, or not feeling relaxed, or reducing my anxiety. But on the list, remember, we're talking about the things we're gaining. So what I've gained now is quality time with my children. I've gained memories. I've blacked out more nights than I care to admit. I've gained cultural experiences. I've maintained my routines. As somebody that has bipolar disorder, if you haven't read any of my bipolar stories, please do. Please feel free to ask me about my experiences. But routine is critically important to me. And when I was drinking, I was constantly outside of my routine. And so I was constantly struggling. I gained being able to make dinner for my family again. And I love to cook. I love to be in the kitchen. I gained game nights. So by doing, you get the idea, right? We're not going to think about the things that we're missing out on. Let's talk about the things that we can gain by removing whatever that activity is or experience is out of our lives. Okay. So let's see, I'm just checking the notes here for any like direct questions on that one, but I think we're good for now. If I've missed it, please reach out to me. The fourth one is, it's not so much as an active tip, but it is to remind us, as Teddy Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And this to me really gets to the root of what FOMO actually is. And keeping up with everyone is exhausting. And I think we all know from social media that can be very true. And I have actually a whole nother piece written on social media, but we won't have time to get into it today. But remember, it's your own perception. And your own perception is your own reality. So change your perception, change the reality. FOMO is comparison. That's all it is. If we compare ourselves to others, we will be left with feelings of inferiority, superiority, and neither of those create emotionally healthy human beings. They just don't. So everybody here today, everybody listening tomorrow on the replay, each one of you is on your own journey, on your own timeline, on your own path, at your own different phase of your own path with a different focus. So while it's incredibly important to lean into your village, lean into your community, embrace your community that's supporting you, ultimately, number one, you have to focus on you, because what works for you, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for Luke. It doesn't work for Kristen. It works for you. So know that you are so unique and you are exactly where you are meant to be. And you are allowed to feel FOMO. That's okay. But if you put in the work over time, you will transition to JOMO. You will transition to the joy of missing out. So real quick, I just want you to think of a time. If you have a paper, scribble it down. But like, what is a time in your life when you have been comparing yourself to somebody else? This could be in a self-development area. This could be in an addiction area. This could be at work. This could be at home. This could be with your girlfriends. Write down an example when you caught yourself comparing yourself to somebody else. And then my question is, how did it make you feel when you caught yourself comparing yourself to somebody else? How did it make you feel? Because like, I've worked 20 years in sales. I've tackled fitness, nutrition. I've built an entire business. And every time I broke my focus and compared myself to others, do you want to know what I got? Absolutely fucking nothing. So bring your focus just on you. Just on you today. So I'm going to close it out and just see if there are any questions. But I want to reiterate something that I said earlier, which was every time we say yes, because we're afraid of missing out, we say no to something else. And I know we jam-packed a lot into today, but that to me is really the crux of it. Every time we say yes, because we're afraid of missing out, what are we actually saying no to? So that's what I have for you today. I'm gonna check the chat for any questions. I see so many comments from you guys. Thank you so much for participating and for being here. It doesn't look like I have any specific questions, but if I do, please feel free to message me. Again, go ahead and join the You by Design with Louise Barnett private group. That's where these live chats are going to be migrating to over time. And then another housekeeping side note, I'm going to be doing an interview with a dear, just professional of mine, a friend, colleague, I don't know what to call her. She's in the mental health and addiction space. And I'm going to be having just a fireside chat with her tomorrow, talking about the importance of the conversations that we have around mental health and addiction. So you can also find that all over my social media, but really would love to see you there. That's going to be a really raw, really real conversation. So looking forward to that. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday and shoot me ideas for next week. Okay. This group is only as good as what you put forth. So I can't wait to hear your ideas. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.